You can see the presentation right over here. Wave your hand, my former student. There you go. If you want to see his presentation, because he came many, many miles to make this presentation, and it would be nice if you could come and see it, okay? So, I only have a few minutes. Thank you for coming again. Portland Community Reinvestment Initiatives, PCRI, is putting on this Roots Festival in conjunction with the community to celebrate our Healthy Foods Access Initiative for our residents, mainly in Northeast Portland. Our organization was born out of the disinvestment, predatory lending, and housing scams that ripped off people in inner Northeast Portland. We still have 750 housing units that we provide the safety and security of housing to people. More power to us. And that's why we're growing power today, baby. Okay, so we have been having residents grow food, and we're wonderful. Some of them have their fruits and vegetables over here, and we want to extend this initiative so that we can make our people healthy and give people the pride and the joy of growing things, and also of enjoying and celebrating food together, like Will Allen's mom did for many, many years on Sundays in the park, right, Will? So I'm going to introduce Will Allen, our keynote speaker. So I'm going to read this. Will Allen is an urban farmer who is transforming the cultivation, production, and delivery of healthy foods to underserved urban populations. Amen. As the son of a sharecropper, former professional basketball player, ex-corporate sales leader, and longtime farmer, he is recognized as a national leader in urban agriculture and food policy. This is his first visit to the Northwest. After a brief career in professional basketball and a number of years in corporate marketing at Procter & Gamble, Will Allen returned to his roots as a farmer, using his retirement package to purchase a plot of inner city land, the last agricultural land zoned in the city of Milwaukee. To purchase a plot of inner city land with greenhouses, where he established and functions as the CEO of the country's preeminent urban farm and nonprofit organization, Growing Power. At Growing Power in community food projects across the nation and around the world, Allen promotes the belief that all people, regardless of their economic circumstances, should have access to safe, affordable, and nutritious foods at all times. It's a civil right in his mind. Using methods he has developed over a lifetime, Allen trains community members to become community farmers, assuring them a secure source of good food without regard to political and economic forces. In 2008, Allen was named the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation Fellow. He received a Genius Grant, only the second farmer ever to be so honored. Amen. He is also a member of the Clinton Global Initiative, and in February 2010, he was invited to the White House to join First Lady Michelle Obama in launching Let's Move, her signature leadership program to reverse the epidemic of childhood obesity in America. In May 2010, Time magazine named Will one of Time's 100 world's most influential people. In 2011, Allen was named one of the world's most powerful foodies by Michael Pollan and Forbes magazine in its World Power issue, and the NEA Security Benefit Corporation Award for outstanding service to public education in 2012 for his work with children, teachers, and schools. In 1967, Allen became the first African-American basketball player at the University of Miami, Florida, and one of Miami's all-time leaders in scoring and rebounding. Post-college, Allen played professionally in the American Basketball Association and then for a Belgian team in the European Professional League. Alan was inducted into the Atlantic Coast Conference Hall of Legends in 2010 and 2011, received the highest honor that can be bestowed to a collegiate athlete, the Theodore Roosevelt Award from the NCAA. His name enshrined at their Hall of Champions in Indianapolis. On May 10, 2012, Will Allen became a published autobiographer of the book, The Good Food Revolution, Growing Healthy Food, People, and Communities. Get the book. I just read it in the last few days. It's great. In the fall of 2012, Allen was the first ever inductee into the Richard Montgomery High School Hall of Fame. That's his alma mater in Rockville, Maryland. He lives with his wife in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. So I'm very pleased to introduce Mr. Allen. Thank you. Again, if you want to come down so you can see the screen, I don't know, make it more visible to you. Excuse me, we're having a few technical difficulties with the sound on a video that Will has brought to show you. I wanted to let you know today that following Will's talk, which will be about 45 minutes, we will have poetry, dance, artists up here on the stage. So enjoy yourself, enjoy all the food, okay? So appreciate your patience.
Yeah, the hand mic. Got one of those, sir?
Yeah, right there, any of them. He's gonna go to a mic.
Good afternoon.
There's nothing different, so I don't know why it's not working.
It's great to be here in Portland. As always, I like to take these opportunities to talk about our food system. But what I'll do, before I get started, I want to thank Karen and the organization for inviting me here. I was in New York a few days ago and flew here, and it's just great to be here to see. It's the first time I've been to Oregon, so it feels great and looks great. So I've met some really wonderful people so far. But let me tell you a little bit about my past. I grew up, I was kind of born into farming. Of course, like Karen said, my father was a sharecropper, and unlike many African American males at that time in the 30s that migrated to the north for a so-called better life out of sharecropping, my father, for some reason, wanted myself and my brothers to learn about how to grow our own food, and for practical reasons, for our family to be able to produce our own food. We produce about 90% of the food that we ate as I was growing up. But the fact of the matter is that as I was growing up, having to work on the farm, being kind of isolated, I really, at the time, being immature, really didn't like the idea of growing food for the rest of my life. So what I really wanted to do is, I was fortunate enough to grow a little bit, and I had over 100 scholarship offers at colleges and universities around the country. I went to the University of Miami. And when I left the farm at 18, I said, never again will I do this farming act again. So you probably should never say never, because I played I went to college, played professional basketball. My last stop was in Belgium, where one of my teammates' family had a farm, and one day I went out on the farm and I touched the soil, and all of a sudden I realized something was missing in my life, and that's where the transformative moment happened for me. So when I got back to the States, I had a burning desire to farm again. And of course, in Wisconsin, where I moved, farms are very expensive to buy farms, so I had to work off the farm, and I started farming on a small scale, and along a continuum, I got up to about 100 acres. And in 1993, when I was working for Procter & Gamble in sales and sales technology, I was driving down Silver Spring Drive, and I ran across the last remaining farm in the city of Milwaukee, a 3-acre plot of land. And I thought that would be a great place for me to sell my produce in the city. It was in a food desert, similar to many food deserts around the country, and probably in this town as well, where there was no access to food. So I thought this would be a great place for me to land. And I was able to buy this facility from the city of Milwaukee and repossessed it for taxes. And that's when it started. And my original idea was to just sell my farm produce. I didn't have a plan to be standing here right here today. My plan was just to sell my farm produce, but what happened, I hired some kids from the community, and our paper, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, wrote a front page story in 1995 about this rural farmer coming into the city, working with kids, and that's how I got sucked into the work that I do today. So along that continuum, we've grown from just me working the farm to today. We have 140 employees. We're one of the largest inner city employers in Milwaukee. We have 25 acres of greenhouse production, some 300 acres of outside production for the spring, summer, and fall. And we've been able to connect with be able to get our food to every community in the Milwaukee metro area. So along that continuum, our infrastructure has grown to the point that local food has become such an important thing all over the country and all over the world, to be able to have a local food system. For the first time in March of 2010, the UN admitted that the only way to end world hunger is on a local level. So as I travel around the country, I see all these projects like you have here in Portland, that we have in New York and in Detroit and Chicago, where people are attempting to grow food. And some of the good news is that the majority of the people that are doing this are people under the age of 40 years of age in the last 10 years. So that's the good news. That young people want to be able to change the dynamics of their community by growing healthy food, by growing sustainable food. So that's what we do in Milwaukee. We want to change the dynamics because in most major cities, less than 1% of the food is local. And our goal is to go to about 10%, which will be hundreds of thousands of dollars that will stay in the local community. I have limited time today, so I wanted to actually show you some images of how our farm started back in 1993 and where we are today in terms of the growth and the development of urban agriculture. I think most people consider Milwaukee as the urban ag capital of the world because of the many projects and the support we've been given from our political folks in the state of Wisconsin. So I'm going to go through this. There's actually 1,000, I don't know if you've seen 1,062 slides before, but this is 1,062 slides. So I'm going to go through this. Could you bring that chair up, please?
it.
Oh, no, no. I used to manage bands. So that bass was keeping high, too.
Going?
Okay, we started in 1993. These are the early years. Can you see this? Okay. All right, next. Okay, these were the young people that we worked with at the beginning, and there's something unique about these young people. These young people are now over 30 years of age. And what's different about these young people is that they have their pants pulled up. That makes them different. Okay, next. Next. Okay, at this point, we were starting to increase the amount of soil that we're composting, because if you're going to do urban agriculture, you have to grow soil, and that's what we do. We compost. Next. And we also started a vermicomposting system that we crank out about 100,000 pounds of worm castings every 4 months. Next. Next. These young people, go back to that slide. Okay. This is where aquaponics started. With this 3-barrel configuration, 1 barrel was a Okay, this is where our aquaponics system started. 1 barrel was the fish tank, 1 was the weed tank, and 1 was the filter tank. And remember this image, because you're going to see how this changes to a large system in the future. So we had a number of these along greenhouse number 4. And we also grew a lot of... I'm not as small as she is, I guess. We grew a lot of bedding plants, and we used those bedding plants to decorate around the city of Milwaukee back in those days. And I would teach the young people in the back 40 how to grow plants. And one of the things we noticed with these young people is that many of them had really poor reading and writing skills. So after they did something physical, we would take them and have them write about their experience. And it improved their reading and writing skills, and their grades got better. So that's something we're using in the schools as we develop curriculum for the Milwaukee Public Schools and other school districts around agriculture. We also would teach the kids how to preserve food, how to can and preserve food, a lost art, and how to use tools, how to use hand tools. And more young people started coming around. I also worked in a juvenile justice system. We would bring our compost down to their facility, and some of these people young people had done some pretty bad stuff, and they were coming back into the community. So we would use agriculture as a way of getting them connected to the community, and they would donate the food that they were growing to Second Harvest Feeding America. And now they were starting to give back as part of their therapy. We would also take those bedding plants and areas, this particular area was neighborhood house where they had a lot of car thefts, and they had shrubs, and we removed the shrubs and brought in compost and planted plants, and all of a sudden the car thefts went away because people started paying attention, looking at the flowers, and it made the, I guess, the car thieves feel uncomfortable, and it went away and kind of remediated that problem. And it also provided jobs for these young people at a time when the city had lost a lot of its funding for summer jobs. And we would take vacant lots where drug dealers would hang out. And we would plant what I call these flower explosions. And we would rally the community, and they would come out, and one day we would transform that vacant lot. And again, the drug dealers went away because people started looking at the flowers, and I guess they felt uncomfortable. And then we started getting folks from out west, from the native communities where diabetes rates were at all-time highs, some over 50%. And they would come down for training, working with the young people, because many of the tribes were gatherers, they weren't farmers. And in Inglewood, on the south side of Chicago, we put up hoop houses because there was a murder a day in Inglewood. And they would use agriculture, a way of getting the kids off the street. And in 1995, the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel wrote a front-page story about me working with these, with the kids. And it really, growing power really started to grow. So at the turn of the century, growing power started to grow, and this is what our facility looks like today. I don't know if you can see it that well, but this is what it looks like today. We have about 31 growing houses there. We grow enough food on that facility for about 10,000 people. We have 30,000 visitors a year to this facility as we move through. We're 5 blocks away from the largest public housing project that's in our food desert. And they're resurrecting that facility into a mixed income community where we have a 3/4 acre community garden that we manage. So that's been a positive plus for people to be able to grow a lot of food. Growing Power operates with a lot of renewable energy. About 1/4 of our energy is derived from solar, 3/4 from our solar hot water system that we have at the facility. Are you all able to see these images? Okay. Sorry about that. We call this a community food center. A community food center is a place where people can come and purchase food, but also get training and just be around a lot of people that are connected to the food system. Growing Power is a multicultural, multi-generational organization, one of the few of its size in the country. And these are some of the faces, if you could see them, of the people, very multicultural, that come to Growing Power over the years. And I'll go through these really fast. Even these guys visit Growing Power. Workshops. Farming, the kind of farming that we do is really an art form. To be able to do sustainable farm, to grow without chemicals, to learn how to do it intensively, to do it in very high fertility soil is really an art form. So you have to get trained, and part of the training is project planning, and that's one of the things that we do in our trainings. We have trainings from January through June every year, where we have about 200 people a month that come through our trainings. And we also have an aquaponics training where we train over 20 people each month from that period, from January through June. But project planning, visioning what your project's going to look like, is a very important piece before you get to the business plan. So that's something that people do. And as I travel around the country, I see people bring out their butcher paper and show me their plans, and their farm looks exactly like what they planned years ago. So we know that process works. One of the areas of training is mushrooms. They're good for us medicinally as well as they just taste good. So that's one of the things that we are able to train people how to grow mushrooms in the most unusual places, like inside greenhouses and chandeliers and in trays and shiitake mushrooms that are elevated above our aquaponics systems. But one of the most important things in all of this work and our health is it's about the soil. So that's something that we do. We teach people how to grow soil, how to compost. This year we composted 40 million pounds of carbon and nitrogen into thousands of yards of compost. The only way we're going to be able to scale up and grow healthy food is to be able to grow new soil. Because we've destroyed our soil and now we have to resurrect it. And the only way to do that is rescue what goes into the landfills and put it back into Mother Earth. So that's one of the major things that we do. If you remember anything I say today, you probably can't see the images very well. It's all about the soil. It's all about the soil. That's where the rubber meets the road in terms of our nutrition. The food that we eat, the nutritious food that we eat, it's all about the soil. Our soil overall is about 50% less fertile around the nation than it was 50 years ago. So that's something we really have to concentrate on, and that's the only way we're going to be able to scale up urban agriculture. We can't dig down because there's too many bad guys in the soil like arsenic and lead in our soils. So that's something that we really concentrate on, and we grow on top of asphalt and concrete and hard pan clay with 2 feet of new soil. So I'm going to move ahead to look at our larger scale composting operations. And everybody's seen this truck, which is the waste truck that picks up our waste. And of course, they take it to the landfill, and we need to be able to rescue that food from the landfill to be able to do that. It's about diverting soil, but it's also about building relationships to be able to get those materials, to get those inputs. And that's where I spend a lot of my time in developing over the years and developing those relationships to get things like brewery grains from our breweries. Milwaukee, at one time, was the brewery capital of the world. We still have a lot of brewery grains. We get over 100,000 pounds a week from one microbrewery. We have Miller, that we get grains from Miller as well. They go through a silo of grains a day. Wood chip, another thing on the carbon side. We're a state with 68% forest, so we're able to collect wood chip and moldy hay from farmer friends of mine. And of course, the fruits and vegetables that get shipped in. Remember, 99% of the food that comes into Milwaukee gets shipped in. So there's a lot of waste from wholesalers that we're able to tap into to be able to grow this healthy soil, to be able to grow the healthy food that we grow. So it's really about growing the soil and being able to do it over 1 million pounds at our national headquarters. And people always ask me, how are you guys able to do it there? It's because we've been able to engage the neighbors, engage the community, so that they know what's going on. That you spend that time and really engaging the community, because when you start thinking about composting, a lot of people are opposed to it. But if you're able to engage the community and get the community on board, it's something you can do. Now we have larger composting areas outside of the city. We have an 80-acre composting facility today to grow the thousands of yards of compost that I talked about earlier. And what do we do with that finished compost? That is really an important piece, to be able to take that compost and use it for different things. And one of the things that we do is vermicomposting, to be able to take worms. Now we started with 30 pounds of worms back in 1995. Today On this farm alone, we have 7,000 pounds of worms that break down the compost into worm castings, which arguably is the best fertilizer that we can use in sustainable agriculture. So that's one of the things that we do with those worms and that compost, is that we do this year round. Every 4 months we produce over 100,000 pounds, and we have about 7 different varieties of worms in our systems. And it's a great transformative moment when you're working with kids to put a couple hundred worms in a child's hands. You know, that's when their whole life changes, right there. And some of these worms live over 20 years, so we handle our worms. The worms are our livestock. When I said earlier we have 140 employees, but we really have more. We really have more like 140 billion employees, because the worms are working for us, and I really like these employees because they never talk back. You just feed them and they do their job. But they're so important in terms of sustainable production of food. And then we market those worm castings for $4 a pound retail, $2 a pound wholesale, and that helps to fund the work that we do, our social responsible work that we do. Over 50% of our income comes from our own efforts of selling products and services, about 40 different income streams that we have at Growing Power. Raised beds. Again, you can't grow in the existing soil. In the city, we have no digging equipment. We have no tractors or rototillers. We put 2 feet of new soil on top of the existing soil, or on top of asphalt and concrete, to be able to grow our food. After we build these hoop houses, and we have 25 acres of these, we bring in the compost, 100 yards per hoop house. In our climate, that acts as a heating element. So this is a form of renewable energy to be able to grow our food throughout the winter. About 40 different types of greens. As a matter of fact, we've gotten our kale into the Milwaukee Public Schools, along with this year we're growing 250,000 pounds of carrots that are going to the Milwaukee Public School system. As far as farm to school. So we're not just talking about farm to school. We've developed and built the relationships with Milwaukee Public Schools, our processor, Cisco Foods, who delivers the only delivery system into the public schools to get our carrots into the public schools, and our kale salad this year. So, I don't know if you can see this image, but this is, I was able to engineer that 3-barrel system, aquaponic system, to this 10,000-gallon aquaponic system, to be able to raise 10,000 lake perch and 10,000 tilapia in less than a year. Aquaponics has become one of the leading things that we can do in urban agriculture and really general agriculture. It's very hot right now, and we're doing a research project working with the Great Lakes Institute at UW-Milwaukee to be able to teach people and develop systems, low-cost systems, to be able to raise fish, because right now we only have a very small slice of the pie of the world pie and fish. China is dominating the world fish market. The U.S. imports most of the fish that we eat. I know you guys in this area are a little more fortunate than we are with cleaner water and maybe more fish, but for us to get it back into the market, we're going to have to be able to grow fish inside buildings, and we have a lot of vacant buildings in the Midwest and really all over the country to be able to build these systems to be able to grow fish. So we grow tilapia, and I don't know if you can see these images of the tilapia and lake perch, which is the preferred fish in Wisconsin. Right now, we're growing over 100,000 fish in our systems, and we trained 140 people. We're also involved with the Great Lakes Institute in fish breeding, because that's the big roadblock right now. We don't have enough fingerlings. We don't have enough baby fish. So that's something that we're working with the Great Lakes Institute to be able to breed some of these species that only breed once a year. But we've been able to figure out in a patented process that the university developed to be able to breed lake perch 4 times a year, which will definitely help the situation. So I would show you these images. I'll pass through them really quick of how it's done in terms of being able to squeeze the eggs out of the fish, to be able to produce 80,000 offspring from each broodstock fish. And that's something that we're doing in Milwaukee, and there are plans to build a large-scale hatchery in the city of Milwaukee in a food desert area that will provide a lot of jobs, and also a processing facility, because we don't have a processing facility in southeast Wisconsin. Okay, the other thing that's important that is happening at our facility, another research project, is to be able to grow food for the fish. So we're growing, using black soldier flies to be able to grow a larva that's 42% protein to be able to feed the fish, because we don't have really good natural food to feed fish. So that's a project that we're working on, to be able to take these larvae and feed our fish, to be able to process them into a fish food, a stabilized fish food. The year-round production, it's really important, even in this area of the country, to be able to grow year-round. We don't need these shutdown periods. It's important for us to eat this good food 365 days a year. And the only way to do that is to do it in a controlled environment. So we have a team of, a construction team that can build 2 hoop houses, 20 by 96 foot hoop houses a day. So we look for land to be able to do that in the city, and again, we're up to 25 acres of hoop houses now to be able to grow food and be able to get that food into institutions like Cisco that go through 800 cases of lettuce a week. And they were buying all of this lettuce from California. Now they've shut down importing that lettuce from California. We provide 800 cases of salad mix a week to Cisco. And that can be done. If we can do it in our climate, which is a very harsh climate, without the use of fossil fuel, we're using compost as a renewable energy source to heat the hoop houses, to keep them warm enough to be able to do that. Very intensive production. Because of the compost and the fertility of the soil, we're able to grow food at $5 a square foot. And that's important, because as we sit here, we're losing agricultural land around the world. So how do we think in the future of many people young people that are here, in the next 40 years, our population will increase by, they say, 3.1 billion people. And if we're not able to feed the people we have on Earth good food right now, how are we going to be able to do it in the future? So we have to develop innovative ways to be able to do that. We have to be able to grow our food more intensively in small places. We have to be able to grow food in cities like Detroit, where they have 169 square miles of land, 90 square miles of vacant land. So we can grow thousands of acres of food in Detroit. Detroit does not have a retail grocery store anymore in the city of Detroit. You take Chicago with 33 square miles of vacant land, some 77,000 vacant lots. In cities like Vancouver and even maybe Portland, there's not a lot of land like that. We're going to have to figure out ways of growing vertical in these vertical farms. So we're going to build the first vertical farm in the world. We have that passed all the scrutiny with the city We're in a capital campaign to build the first of its kind in the world. Because that's what we're going to have to do in cities that don't have, cities like Boston again, and cities like Tokyo and Los Angeles, where there's not a lot of vacant land. But we also need to use all these vacant buildings, these shut down factories, to be able to grow fish, to be able to have these aquaponic systems. That's what we're working on, and we're training people to be able to do. And this next generation of young people are really the key. I always tell these young people that in a lot of ways we failed them. We didn't prepare them for this, what they're going to deal with. But I have great confidence that this next generation, I just spoke to 1,800 students at Hofstra University in New York a couple of days ago, and I told them that they're the generation who will change the food system. And it's important for us to pass on what we've learned to them. And I believe that's what has to happen. It's not whether we need to just try this. We have to make this to really survive. A lot of people think we won't survive as a species if we're not able to feed ourselves, because that's the one thing everybody here has in common, is that we have to eat food. And my question has always been, why aren't we eating good food? Now you all will eat a meal today, and you can call me, you can call your doctor, you can call anybody you want, but nobody will be able to tell you the nutritional value of the food that you'll eat today. And that's what we have to be able to figure out. We have to come up with testing protocols that when you go in the grocery store, you know the true nutritional value of the food, because that's where the rubber meets the road in our health. And our good food should be our medicine. So we need to end this healthcare crisis. You can listen to all the politicians and how they move numbers around and all that garbage. The way we end the healthcare crisis in this country is to grow healthy people. That's the only way. That's the only way we can end it. So that's some of the work that I'm doing now, working with both medical schools and School of Public Health at UW-Milwaukee, to really quantify the nutritional value of the food that we're growing in our food, in our soil, versus the food that's shipped into our marketplace. And that's what you should be doing here as well. You should question the food that you're eating, regardless of whether it has that organic label on it or not. Nobody's telling you the nutritional value of that food. So that's something that we have to work on. And we need everybody on board. It's no longer that the burden is placed on the farmer. The burden is on all of us. You know, we need politicos at the table. We need universities. We need medical folks. We need everybody, engineers. We need everybody at the table. Farmers, community folks. Thank you. To be able to sit at the table and figure this out. How are we going to change our food system to a food system that really works for everybody? To make sure that everybody has access in every community. It's really about social justice. It's about, and food justice, environmental justice, that everybody has access to the same food, not just because we have a lot of money. But we need to make sure that everybody has access to the same food, and that's what we're doing in Milwaukee. Our food that we grow, without chemicals, goes to everybody. We figured out a way, a scheme, to be able to get it to everybody in every community. And that's what we need to do all over the country and all over the world, because this is not just